Episode 98 is with Vernell Woods, CEO of Moolah Mobile and Culture Wireless. Now, let me tell you, this man's mind is amazing. We got to talk about his experience as a young Black techie, making moves that are not just local, not just national, but global impact in the technology space. This episode was so impactful that even though we had video issues on this one, I wanted to make sure you got the gems that you need, so it's going to be an audio presentation only. So whether you're catching this on YouTube or your favorite podcast streamer, sit back, relax, and enjoy this audio presentation of episode 98 with Vernell Woods, CEO of Moolah Mobile and Culture Wireless. Let's get into it. If this is the one thing that kind of irritates me about my field, and it is that people go into helping situations expecting not to get paid. Listen, if y'all can see this look that he's giving me.
So you can, like I tell everybody, you can want to change the world and help the world, but you only going to go as far as your pockets allow you to. So if your pockets allow you to go down the street and only talk to 3 people, that's the impact you have. Mm-hmm. Your pockets, say I'm Elon Musk or I'm Bill Gates, and here is, $100 million, then now you got $100 million of impact.
So I know that you'll agree, enjoying myself while I work is the vibe that I'm trying to be on. So I want to invite you guys to Sidebar ATL here in Atlanta, Georgia. Sidebar, on top of the good food and live music, they have 3 different experiences. That means you can join me in the garden room, in the gold room if you want to try the top of the line hookah, and they also have the dungeon where I hear what happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon. So it's the perfect mix. If you're here on business or you want to blow off some steam after work, you can meet me at Sidebar ATL so that you can have a little bit of dinner and then turn up afterwards if that's your jam. So check us out, 79 Poplar Street here in downtown Atlanta, or you can call 678-800-0741. Let's get it. Work and play at the same time, right? Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and today we have a really, really dope guest. His name is Vernell Woods, and I met the man in the middle of just like an ad hoc brainstorming conversation. I don't know what I walked into, honestly. I was like, okay, and then I walked in and we started having real heavy talk. Just about what's the meaning behind our journey, just detaching from the system, being able to utilize our gifts and take over, right? Okay. We went deep real quick. We did. So I'm hoping we can do the exact same thing today. Okay. I know a little bit about your story, but I would not do it justice. So if you would, introduce yourself for the folks.
Hello everybody, Vernell Woods, as she just mentioned. I'm the CEO of Moolah Mobile and Culture Wireless. My journey started probably back in Virginia, where I'm from, Suffolk, Virginia. In high school, I was that nerd, that hacker kid, right? That kid that was getting into everything I wasn't supposed to. But I also was really smart. I made really good grades, but I was also a jock. So I was kind of the best of
both worlds,
right?
Yeah.
And so, long story short, I got into my school system, doing some stuff I probably wasn't supposed to. But I made really good grades, so rather than expelling me and putting me in trouble, they gave me a job. I started working for the school system when I was, 15 or 16. That's when I learned a lot more and got a lot better. And I learned how to really be an innovator, a thinker on my own, and really understand the true aspects of networking, hacking, computer systems, just in general. I really learned a lot of it. And then from there, went to Georgia Tech.
Oh.
Georgia Tech, go Jackets.
Did you always want to go to Georgia Tech?
No.
Because you guys have Virginia Tech, right?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to Virginia Tech, though.
Oh, that was not an option.
Well, I mean, I'm Black. Mm-hmm. And Virginia Tech's in the middle of Blacksburg.
Okay, I don't know much about Blacksburg.
Yeah, look up Blacksburg.
Okay.
Look up Blacksburg, right? The only thing there is Virginia Tech, but at the same time, I actually had committed to Cornell. I got in pretty much everywhere, Harvard, MIT, I got everywhere, but I was going to Cornell. Mm-hmm. But Georgia Tech came and told me I could keep my scholarship money. So I received, because I was doing all this crazy stuff, I was I did all right? So I had some scholarship money sitting on the side, and then they also gave me this president's scholarship, and I was the first black in computer engineering to get it in the school's history. So I was like, hey, you know what? I get to be an innovator. I get to be a pioneer, be that first black, but at the same time, I get to put money in my pocket. So I was like, you know what? And then if I can go to Atlanta at the same time, I really felt like I could do what I really cared about and learn and be around the people that matter.
What did you know about Atlanta at the time? And what year was this?
2008.
Okay, 2008. Yeah. What did you know about the city? Because it's morphed
Completely.
Yeah.
It's nothing like it. I come to Atlanta a few times, been to the Martin Luther King exhibits, right? I was a Coca-Cola scholar, so I came to Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola gave me some money and stuff like that. And so other than that, not much, right? I just really knew it was the mecca of black innovation and kind of black excellence, but most importantly, entertainment. And so I was like, you know what? Whenever something happens in the black community, it starts as cool, and Atlanta's where cool lives.
Hey, listen, and so, even Moolah, even like the name of your company, like you always got this little piece of coolness in you.
Always. Moolah Mobile, Culture Wireless. We understand where we are.
Yeah. Going back to like the kid that you were, right? When did you start knowing who you were? Because I'm hearing this, like, you recognize Atlanta is cool, which I definitely agree. I think I'm cool by default, honestly.
She's like, I'm just cool anyway.
No, I'm cool because I'm here. I'm cool by association.
Right.
But I do agree. Like, you know, some of the things like in entertainment, like black people, it's way more the black mecca than it was before. Right. Or just in a different meaning. So when you're in Virginia, right, you started off as a geek, you got this opportunity to work for the government. You said the government or the school system?
Both.
Dope. What was your idea? Well, and then you got the best of both worlds, right? You're a jock and you're...
Yeah, because remember, I'm a geek, but I'm also a wrestler. I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I'm playing baseball, golf, but my passion is fighting. It doesn't like wrestling, mixed martial arts. That's what I am. So most geeks don't live over there too often. That's not where the geeks live.
When did you recognize that was different for you? Are you still trying to get a leg up on your entrepreneurial career? Now, I told you about the morning meetup, the community that was created for the betterment of entrepreneurship. And we are cooking up some really cool things. Now, here's the thing. If you join today, you can actually get in for 60% of the original price. So if you join today, all you have to do is download the app, and I provided the link below so that you can join us. We have community, we have a book club, and it's the largest group that meets every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to literally get a head start on entrepreneurship. So if you're still trying to grow, you don't know what your business is going to be, but you know you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the community for you. So check out the morning meetup, click the link below, download the app, and join us today.
I had TSA. So in high school, I had this teacher named Dawn Roundtree. She was amazing. She ran technology. And actually, it started probably in middle school because it was Mr. Christmas. And there was this thing called Virginia Technology Student Association.
Okay.
And it was like this, you just got together with thousands of kids and solved really difficult problems. And you just were able to talk, explain, and just innovate and put your engineering mind to work. And I excelled really well. I became the state president. It was the largest student-run organization, like, you know, about like DECA,
FBLA, all the things.
So the largest of those is TSA. And it's the Technology Student Association, and so I became the president for the state. And then from there, it thrusts me into a lot of environments with innovators and kids that were able to innovate and think fast and on their feet. And I was able to see myself thrive in that environment. And then from there, I also was thriving in the kind of computer world and hacking world. And I was also thriving in the sports world, right? Where I was doing pretty well in wrestling. And then I had, you know, I was okay in baseball and I was okay in golf and I was doing pretty good. And I was captain of this, captain of that. And so it was just overwhelming sometimes, but it was almost effortless. So I don't want to say like I really was paying attention to it. I don't want to be like there was this conscious, intentional anything. I think it was just having fun.
Yeah, and it also sounds like the environment you were placed in at a very young age really set you up like for your mind. I can imagine there were younger people who didn't capitalize on those opportunities, right? There were students who probably weren't fit for a tech industry, right? But for you, it was the right person, right type of environment, and you kind of touched on the the programmatic part of the environment, but like, what were your parents like? Obviously they were like, let me put my baby in some of these things.
You know, I love my parents. I have a really weird relationship because when my parents come around and everybody else's parents, it's always kind of different. So my dad and my mom, they were really intentional about their goals, almost too intentional sometimes, right? They had this vision of what they saw, and they were trying to always just put me in the position to excel. And so when we moved to Suffolk, we moved to the environment where we was like all black people, then a little bit of black people, then it was like no black people, right? And you know, I think most middle class black people, we go through that process where you're like, okay, I'm in an environment now, there isn't a lot of us, and now you're having to thrive in that kind of world. And I think they equipped me a lot for being able to excel, right? It was some harsh realities that I learned young. Like, hey, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna play a sport, you're the only one that's here, and you're playing a sport that's not built for you, so it's gonna be some adversity. You better be twice as good. You wanna make the All-Star team, be twice as good. You wanna get these opportunities, don't make a B, have the best. And so it was really rigorous, right? Everybody in my family would be like, let him relax, let him calm down. But they were always pushing me, and now I'm really grateful for that, because I think it's allowed me to be who I want to be. For them, they're gonna be like, I pushed him too much. Now he don't listen to nobody. But I mean, for me, it really allowed me to really learn how to thrive in every environment, and that created a fearless attitude that I don't need to. It doesn't matter whether I'm walking into Google, Microsoft, a school system. I don't care. I know how to thrive and excel.
Yeah. I want to get into your story a little bit more, but I think that I would be remiss if we didn't share with you guys, one, why this man is extremely amazing, and I knew it from like the first 5 minutes, right? So we talked about Moolah Mobile, right? And I want to, like, the story is probably going to really like blow us away, but tell us about the company. Tell us about the impact that you guys are having on the world.
So Moolah Mobile and Culture Wireless, well, first off, just focusing on Moolah Mobile, our objective was to understand and improve the amount of cash flow that was going into the low income communities worldwide, period, hard stop. Right, we just looking at the discrepancy between races, and this isn't just a black-white thing, right? Because there's some white communities that are struggling, there's some Latino communities that are struggling, but looking at the disparities between the poor and the rich, and with a focus on the communities I come from, which are black communities, I was looking at the situation and saying, how can we really make it so that an extra $100 goes into everyone's pocket? Right? Can we shift the wealth gap by 5%? And when we do that, can we also give each other the tools we need, the apps that are helpful? Can we learn how to save? All the things that I learned in these unique environments that I was thrust into, that I had to learn to excel, when I go home, nobody knows these things. But when you try and push all that information at once, it's overwhelming. It just completely over people's head. And I'm like, okay, well, for us to improve where we are, and for the progress that we hear Obama and everybody talking about, what we really have to do is we not only have to give additional information and learning and things like that to be able to know what to do, you have to push additional resources as well. And so what I felt was that with Moolah Mobile, I would be able to take an industry that was thriving, growing in an insane way with mobile phones, and combine that with an industry that was doing the exact same thing in advertising, $1 trillion that's being spent, and redirect it in a better way, in a way that was more impactful for our community. So if Facebook is gaining billions of dollars and Amazon's gaining billions of dollars and all this ad money is flowing, and they're really just stealing your information and selling it to somebody else, whether you get your approval or not. Now it's getting a little better, but that's really what they were doing, especially back when we started this. We're like, well, can we just take that same revenue and just only pocket 1/3 of it, and give 1/3 of it to the people, and give 1/3 of it to the phone companies, so we have loyalty and we have an ecosystem where all of us can work together. We can bring in those additional apps that help, and the different tools from the government, right? You can bring in Humana and all the different government programs, put it in one device, and then take that money, that third of the money that was making them $1 billion, and put it into those devices as well. And now you just handed someone a tool that they need to change their life, and you're not forcing them to go through some corporate entity, some corporate structure, some educational system. You're literally allowing them to use the internet and the ability to learn the way it now exists for everybody, and you're just giving it to them at the palm of their hand.
Productively, right? I'm thinking of the word, like even learning how to not just be a consumer and use the phone as just a telephone, or to get on these other like apps that help other corporations, is to use it for your benefit.
Correct.
That's amazing. Have you ever like identified yourself as a social entrepreneur or any of the sort?
I've heard the term, right?
Okay.
So this wasn't my first company. My first company was called Jokima. That's where T.I. came in. So when I was in Atlanta, after I came to Georgia Tech, I went to a few places and I realized it wasn't for me. I was at Raytheon Integrated Defense Systems doing weapons design, like crazy stuff. And I just was like, corporate America, dead. Right? Not working.
We gotta, you said,
we're gonna get there.
Okay.
We're gonna get there. But like that just wasn't working for me. And so I came back and I was like, this is a by any means situation. So there wasn't a lot of investors. And I was like, but I know my community and I know where the money exists. So I'm gonna go to where the money exists. And in Atlanta, the money exists in the entertainers, the street. The number one artist at that time was T.I. So I went to T.I., partnered, and got him to invest. And that was my first $500,000.
How did you get him to invest?
Wow, this is a story. But it's really not that crazy, right? So I'm at Georgia Tech. I'm like, all right, I know how to thrive in this environment, but there's a whole bunch of rich kids here. It's a whole bunch. I didn't know what Woodward Academy was. So there's just a whole bunch of rich kids here. And I was like, you know, the crazy part about the rich kids is that they're always around the entertainers. So I went to the athletes and I found the richest kids on campus. I was like, hey, now one of y'all connect me to whoever you know in the entertainment industry. And I got connected to a kid named Wilson Warren. And Wilson was like, hey, I'm connected to BMF, a few others, which was crazy. This white kid, like, I love Wilson to death. Kind of quirky, but very speaks his mind, is gonna say what is on his mind, but he fits in both environments. And so he's like, hey, I can connect you to Tip, but I can't do the intro. That's not how that works. I can just tell you where he gonna be at, and you on your own.
Okay, that's real.
I was like, yo, that's...
What was his philosophy behind it? Do you know?
He's not... I'm not gonna speak on that. I'm gonna let him speak on that. That's for another time. I'm gonna let him speak on that. But he was like, he's gonna be at 6 Feet Under, which was a restaurant right down the street from Georgia Tech. So I went there. I saw him at the bar. His security was around him. I went in, took my little deep breath, walked up, pushed, you know, and you gotta know me, I'm like 5'2", the security's like 6'4", and there's like 5 of them around him and he's sitting behind. I'm just like, I pushed my way through. I walked into him at a bar and I'm like, hey, I can make you $1 billion and I'm the smartest person you've met and I can do something you've never seen. Do you wanna listen or not? And he just looked at me and was like, he just literally stared for like a good 2-3 minutes, just like staring at me. He didn't even say anything. And he's like, just pull up a seat. And I pulled up a seat and I told him who I was. And his first response was bull. He was like, bull, I don't know, like bull crap. He was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you've done these things. I don't believe this is where you are. And so
he's calling BS.
Complete BS.
Okay.
Complete BS. So I'm like, put me to the test. So he introduced me to his lawyers. They went and did due diligence. They called Gary May, who was the dean at that time of engineering. They called the government. They called some government programs and some people that I said I was affiliated with, and they did due diligence through and through. And then he came back and was like, either you're the best hustler in the world I've ever met, or you're the most unique person I've ever met. I'm not gonna be able to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but I can tell you you need protection and help. I'm in. And ever since then, that's been my partner.
Since 2000, you said 2008?
That was in 2012.
That's amazing.
2012, 2013, yeah. And
now,
ever since then.
You're in all these different programs, right? Had you ever been in a career development program, or had anyone ever like told you how to approach someone? The first thing you said is, I can make you $1 billion, right? Did you practice that before you came in? Like, this is all natural, right?
Yeah, like I'm a fighter. Right? So when you're a fighter and you're used to being an outcast, or the anomaly. You realize that you got a very short amount of time, and the other person's attention span is very short. So you need to understand what they care about and how to motivate them. And sometimes you got 30 seconds.
Wow.
Tip cares about money. And he cared about that. That was where his focus was. But he also cared about the community. So I appealed to both.
Tell me the name of the company again, the first one?
Yopima, Y-O-P-I-M-A. That company was crazy. And it's actually still around, right? I was young, don't judge me. Don't judge me, y'all don't judge me, I'm serious. But I was trying to figure out the best clubs to go to. I was in Atlanta, I'm young, I'm fresh, I'm wild, right? It is what it is. And I'm going to these parties and I'm realizing it, then I'm going to the clubs and I'm like, y'all are saying there's this many girls here, but it's really not. And y'all saying, and the girls, I'm listening to the girls like, okay, they frustrated because the guys that are thinking they're there are not there. And these lines wrapped around all the building, around every club, and I'm like, you're playing a game. So Yopima just literally took the latitude and longitude of every single club, and every time people got close to it, it would tell you how many girls and guys were really there and show you who was inside and let you choose which club you went to based off of who was already there.
Like the female to male ratio.
And then the way it worked was the females, once you got inside, the females, you could message a female, but she had to respond to you. And if she didn't respond, you lost access to her the moment she left. So it put the females in control. We gained way too many users, way too fast.
Are you serious? Wait a minute. So wait, this is a joke.
Listen, right? So I'm sitting here, and at this time, literally, because I'm Joe, I just created, like, I'm in music production enclave, and Georgia Tech's fun, but it's really not that hard. It's really not that challenging, but I'm really just experiencing Atlanta. I'm like, oh my God, I'm around people, I'm around things. I ain't never seen this amount of women. I ain't never seen this. I'm like, Jesus Lord, right? Listen, I'm like 20, 21. This is a new situation.
Yeah, and your mind is like, okay, so how can I capitalize on this?
My mind is my mind, right? You can't get rid of that. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, well, how do I capitalize on it? And that's what I created. And so Tip, of course, is like, yes, I'm in on that. And so we went and took over the Maserati dealership of New York. We went and did tours all around the country, and we gained almost like 1 million users in 3 months. Wow. My infrastructure was only built to handle 75,000.
Wow.
Did not understand that. Like, I was young in my entrepreneurial journey. But we also got the patent for comparative geofencing. So when you use location in your phone, that's called geofencing, right? Geolocation.
That's the same thing that remember the game, like when Pokemon was real. That's the same thing, right? Okay.
I own the patent for comparing geofences. So when you want to say this person's in this area, this person's in this area, so the advertiser sell this ad to this person, that's my patent.
Now I understand how you can tell the difference between the female and the male. Because I was wondering, you had to opt in, but you already had this information because like it's already existing. Oh wow!
So you just download the app, you create a profile, and I know everything.
Yeah, wow. Okay, got you.
So that was that, and then from there, oh my goodness, it just grew, right? So we ended up pivoting because I just didn't build it the right way. But we were like, you know what, let's come back to it. We're gonna come back to Yopima in a little bit, but we can use this location-based technology a little better.
Absolutely.
So
I was gonna ask you, would you consider, you kind of, in your mind, I can hear your answer, but I was gonna say, do you consider Yopima your first failure in business, or what would you consider that in your book?
Failure is a really weird word for me, right? Because failure is one of those words that has this negative connotation to it. But for me, I look at them as stepping stones, and I don't really look at stepping stones as failures. Yeah. I like that you say that. That's not a failure. What that is a learning process, right? And so, in business, they'll say fail quick. Like quickly, move quick. But when you're doing that, there's an understanding that you're gonna get it wrong. And if you're looking at getting it wrong as failure, you're gonna have a lot more mental battles that are unnecessary. That's real.
Even to use the word in the vernacular, I'm thinking of an interview Kobe Bryant did one time, and he was saying the exact same thing, right? And so he searches for the failure, right? And it's just like, But before you have that mindset, you're right. I think that you start to internalize failure in a negative way, as it should be an encouragement.
You haven't gotten it. You haven't been hit in the mouth. Mm-hmm. Everybody's a fighter. Everybody's crazy till they get hit in the mouth and they fall. Mm-hmm. And then once you've fallen a few times, you're like, okay, I know how to get up. Once you understand how to get up, it doesn't really feel like falling no more.
Yeah.
It just feels like getting stronger. Mm-hmm. So most people that I talk to, they haven't fallen enough. So because they haven't fallen, it's like, oh my God, I'm afraid of failing. What if I do this wrong? What if this goes left? What if this is it? Shut up. You're gonna fall. You ain't did it before. Now get up. Now fall again. Now get up. Now fall and get up. And then eventually you're gonna start walking.
I love it. So you mentioned the story, right? After asking about like the social entrepreneurship, and even like as you string it together, it's like, T.I.'s motivation, right, for money, but then also his community, his civic mind itself, and then kind of taking it back to when you mentioned Moolah, it started with this very like social justice reason. So you're talking about your first business endeavor, and I'm assuming
it grew, right?
Yeah.
Because at first it was more like, I'm 21, I'm really trying to understand business. Yeah. Then it grew to, now that I'm growing business, why is it that T.I. is saying he can't walk into this room? Oh, I was thrown off. When I'm raising money and Tip is like, hey, they're gonna receive you better than they receive me because of what I've been through. So we gonna play good cop, bad cop. And I'm actually gonna be the good cop. Oh, that threw me for a loop. I'm like, the most notorious, what you mean you the good guy and I'm the bad guy? What you mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, I need you to recognize who you are. You are the fear. You are frightening. You are saying that you can create whatever you want to create. So as we're doing this and I'm learning this, I'm like, okay, you know what? There's a real problem, right? There's a disconnect between the money, the resources, and our community. And I knew it was there from history books. I knew it was there from grandma conversation and mama conversation, but I never felt it.
Right.
But I felt it when I went through and I was trying to raise money that first time. And then even having Tip on my team, I felt it even more because I now felt it from his perspective. And his perspective said, I got $30-50 million in my pocket and it's still the same. So I was like, okay, I gotta approach this different. I gotta think differently. So immediately, right after that, I became the tech director for David Perdue.
Okay, doing tech director for David Perdue. Break it down.
Who David Perdue is?
I don't.
The biggest election going on in Georgia right now is David Perdue versus Stacey Abrams.
Wow.
David Perdue was the U.S. Senator for Georgia, and now is Donald Trump's #1 supporter because Georgia's the battleground state. So Obama just came behind. The Obama's just Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Well, before all of this, right when it started, during David Perdue's first campaign, I didn't understand either side. I didn't care about sides, being honest. I was learning. So I came in to lead his technical efforts for Georgia. So I understood the whole Republican side, the entire internals for how to win an election.
Wow.
And we built some really creative stuff to help David Perdue win that first election.
Can you say, okay.
Listen, we built some really, really crazy stuff that allowed them to be able to analyze Facebook data, to be able to communicate and understand who we're marketing to, and even be able to alter messages based on where you were. Right, I really just put my brain towards that. Now, after that first campaign and that first one, I learned a lot about politics, so I'm gonna stay out of that for a few years. I'm gonna get back eventually, don't worry. But for right now, I need to make some more money to be dealing with them. I'm just real. Okay. I'm just real. But for them.
Can you say though, like, because I'm trying to understand, like, why? Like, is it because, like, it takes more politicking within politics to make things happen versus you being able to focus on business and making money, or is it just like? Or even it takes longer to make change? Like, what is your thought at a high level?
On a high level, politics is a game of power.
The best way to support the Work and Play podcast is by subscribing to the YouTube channel and by going to your favorite podcast player to subscribe and rate the Work and Play podcast. That's all you have to do. So if you are liking the Work and Play podcast, the content, the stories that we're sharing, and you know that this will help someone, go ahead and share the content to someone who could actually use it and help them on their journey to transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. Now let's get back into the episode.
And power comes with resources and the ability to sway people. And without those things, your ability to play politics is limited because you don't have leverage.
Got it.
I didn't have enough leverage.
Okay.
But I realized T.I. didn't have enough leverage either. But I know somebody that did, which was David Perdue. So rather than trying to figure out how to do that, I dove in, went inside, and figured out what that power was and how we got it.
Wow.
So I could do the same.
Okay. How long did you spend on his team?
About 6 months.
Okay.
6 months to, about 6 months to a year.
Okay. So I feel like there's your entrepreneurial self. You went in and worked for David Perdue. What happened next?
So from there, then I understood, and then I understood what was happening, and then some serendipity happened. There was a group in Texas, and Donald Trump, this is right after that, I'm working on a couple new ideas right after David Perdue, and Donald Trump is beginning to run for the next campaign. And they're seeing that he's probably gonna win. But there's this program Obama had put in place called Lifeline, which everybody knows as Obama phones.
Oh, okay, I did not know that.
So there was like 20, 30 million people that get free government phones because Obama was basically saying at that time that mobile phones was just like water, gas, everything else. And so everyone needed this. It's essential. It's an essential service. So they got Congress to designate large amounts of money, and then they went and got mobile phone companies to be able to give away free phones, and the government would give them $9.25 every single month.
Okay.
So if your phone service costs less than that, then they could make money by giving you a free phone. And right now, to this day, there's still 20, 30 million people on that program. But they thought Donald Trump was gonna cut it, leaving 20, 30 million people out back, done. And so they came to me, they were like, hey, we know what you've done. We saw what you just did with David Perdue. We know what you've done in some other arenas. Come over here with us for a little bit. Let us borrow your mind for a little bit. And that's what happened.
The Trump administration?
No, this is the phone companies.
Got it.
The phone companies that are afraid of the Trump administration said we need a way to offset that $9.25
just in case
they cut it, so all these people can keep getting service.
Do you think it was so they can keep getting service, or so they can keep getting that back in?
To be honest, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Right? Everybody's motivation here is money. When you understand how this works, it's money. So they understand we want money, I want money. So when we want to help the people, it's very rare that you're like, I want to help the people, and I'm okay being broke doing it.
Yeah. And I'm okay being broke doing it. Well, that's the funny thing. Quick segue though, I have to share with you though, I'm about to get my master's in social work. Right. And there's one thing, if this is the one thing that kind of irritates me about my field, and it is that people go into helping situations expecting not to get paid. Listen, if y'all can see this look that he's giving me, if y'all can give me the look that he is giving me right now, I think that is this right here that you're sharing. It's a mindset that it's just a seed that needs to be planted in individuals who want to do good, because oftentimes social workers will like cast themselves out to do good things and not expect the money on the back end. But as you're describing, the power, the motivation, all that stuff is centered around the money. And if you really want to do good, you have to be able to know your way around these two things.
You have to have both.
Dang.
So you can, like I tell everybody, you can want to change the world and help the world, but you only going to go as far as your pockets allow you to. So if your pockets allow you to go down the street and only talk to 3 people, that's the impact you have. Your pockets, say I'm Elon Musk or I'm Bill Gates, and here is, $100 million, then now you got $100 million of impact.
It sounds like in this moment, this was one of the first realizations as you're sharing your story that you know that there's a gap right? You knew through the textbooks, history books, aunties, like that kind of stuff, but you hadn't felt it until your first business endeavor, right? And that you went into like working with David Perdue and even the phone companies with a different mindset.
Right.
What did that inform you to do next?
Differently.
Yeah.
What that informed me to do was to keep your stuff together, and most importantly, recognize what you don't know. Right? The fear most people have is that I don't know everything. I don't know finances. I don't know this, I don't know that. None of them knew it either when they started. It's just, do you have the wisdom to say out loud and the courage to say out loud, I don't know it. I know that I don't know it, but I know how to find someone that does and how to trust them. That's difficult.
Were you not like that before? Would you say ego got no?
No, I won't. I struggle with that now. Like, can we just call a spade a spade? Like, that's the human nature in us, right? It's just understanding that sometimes that ego inside of you wants you to be like, I don't like there being stuff I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. But when I was around Tip kept saying something that I took from him. He was just like, yo, I got 3 times as much money as you, but I'm always gonna be the dumbest person in the room. And as long as I'm the dumbest person in the room, I always got something to gain. But I was so used to being the smartest person in the room that I had built my career, built everything on being the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I learned to be the dumbest person in the room that I started excelling.
Wow. When would you say that realization?
In the middle of Moolah. It wasn't even at the beginning of Moolah. It
Dang.
was, I'm
Be real, yeah.
It wasn't even at the beginning, right? Like, you're gonna have to go through some L's. You're gonna have to take something and be like, okay, you know what? I gotta figure this out. I gotta remove my ego. I gotta realize, because sometimes you're like, okay, I know how to code. I know how to develop. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. But then you forget those 5 things on the back that you learn in corporate America. And I'm like, oh, okay, I remember in corporate America, there's a reason why there's all these departments and all these people and all these different things that are here. There's a reason for it. Mm-hmm. So rather than looking at corporate America as something bad, I went back to my corporate America people, looked at their infrastructure and how they built their company, and started duplicating it.
Let's talk about it from the front end, because I totally understand, and I want you guys to pick that up about like the fact that you went back for the infrastructure. I mean, infrastructure, but also intel is the word I was looking for. Yeah. But going in, you had one perception. So you had all this experience, you had done all these cool things, right? Tapped into some amazing projects. What was it that like drove you to go get a job in corporate?
Oh, I never got a job in corporate. I just did that while I was in college. Internships that turned into real jobs. But because like they would be like, hey, you're an intern. Wait, you can do way more than an intern. You know what? Just go ahead. Just go ahead. We'll pay you a little more. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was. But no, like corporate America, that wasn't. In this entrepreneur world, it's gonna take 10 years.
For what?
For you to learn how to raise money. It doesn't have to. If you have the people, the network, the understanding, all the stuff that I know now, if you already got that, go for it. You might get that in a couple years, right? But if you like me, you're gonna need to know, all right, how do I put together this pitch deck? How do I sell? All right, I went through the little accelerator, but that accelerator didn't tell me how to adjust this pitch based on the person I'm sitting in front of. This person's motivation is this person's motivation is that. It didn't tell me to ask questions first. Mm-hmm. Always know what you care about before I even talk about what I care about, to make sure that I can paint a narrative towards
your desires, your goal. Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna know that when you start. Right? Those are details, right? Being able to create a team. How do I hire someone that is worth $300,000 and I can only give them 15? How do I get them to work on my team? How do I motivate them? How do I go to celebrities and how do I work with those kind of people? How do I do proper accounting, billing, taxes? Like, how do I handle human resources? How do I fire someone, hire someone? How do I get sued, right, and go to court, right? How do you, there's so many things that you have to know, or at least have to have people around you that know.
Yeah.
To be able to do this well. How do I go and get my lawyers? How do I get the right attorneys to know when I should be an LLC and when do I become a C Corp? Okay, wait, and yeah, this investor right here just literally kicked me out the door because I walked in and said I was an LLC. How would I know that?
All these experiences, like, no, I understand. Like, one, without, like, sometimes without a mentor, even sometimes your mentor can't even help you, right? But life experiences is what you learn. I'm differentiating, like, all those experiences that you shared, these are things that you learned in entrepreneurship. And you're saying that you got a foundation of it from corporate. I see it as two, and you can help me, like, delineate, like, where you see the line. I feel like, you understanding, like you working with David Perdue and understanding like power dynamics and those type of things. I think that comes from you kind of learning the way it goes. Then what corporate teaches you is like the pitch deck, the structure, that kind of stuff. Where do you differentiate what you learn by life? Like you can't speed that part up versus the stuff that people can be aware of while they're still in corporate.
Corporate America, the only way you're gonna learn what I learned in corporate America is to be the CEO. You're not going to be, if you're not going to raise money for your company, if you don't got to go to the market, right, and say, hey, I'm responsible for the numbers this month and whether we met our revenue goals for the quarter, or saying, hey, you gave me $3 million and it's my job to turn that into 5 in X amount of time. If that's not your job, it may feel like you're learning it all, but you're not. You're learning the segment that they want you to learn, right? And so understanding it from that perspective and saying, hey, you know what? I need this person to know that part. Corporate America never asks one person, very rare, right, to know all of it.
So you're saying that it wasn't that you went back to corporate America to understand how to do business a little bit differently. You just understood that if I want to have my own business, I have to set up these different departments, these silos, the processes.
This is how all corporate America taught me, was how to scale. That's it.
I'm with it.
It wasn't about that I learned how I didn't learn entrepreneurship from corporate America in any way. It was a waste of time, which is why for me, I told Georgia Tech in school, I will never work corporate America. You cannot pay me to work corporate America. Google can't pay me. None of y'all can pay me to go into this environment, because what it is that you're doing is giving me a job in a silo in this fixed area and saying this is your world. Yeah. You can climb as long as it doesn't affect the other silos.
But you can never disrupt the ecosystem.
But you can't disrupt the ecosystem. And for me, I'm a natural disruptor. So that meant that no matter what, you're always going to have an uncomfortable limit. Yeah. An uncomfortable ceiling above you, always.
Yeah, I agree. And coming from a disruptor's position, I can think of the times where I recognized I was a disruptor, but I wasn't prideful about it. I was like, what's going on around me? Do you have stories of when you recognize, like, one, I'm a disruptor, but then two, things weren't going your way in corporate?
Every day. I wasn't there long. So I don't want to, like, when you're an intern, then you get a normal software position and then you start doing stuff like that.
It don't take that long to recognize a shitty situation.
It don't take really long. it don't take long. And so when you're there, I'm like, I just made 14,000. I'm up. I'm 19. I'm winning. I just made 14,000. Hold up. Then I looked at the sheet and I looked at the contract. Well, y'all made 14 million off what I just did? Dead. I'm done. I'm done. Right? No matter how you look at this, I'm done. Now, and for their reasons, they can have all these. Now, I understand now. There's all these other things that go into place to execute that I didn't understand then. But still, no.
Even to your point, right? It's like, and I've heard this story many times. Like when you have a sales job or a commission job or some type of development job where the bottom line is $1 million or $2 million, and your take home is probably your salary, which is somewhere in like 60 to 100,000, which is a fraction of the work that you put into. The money is a fraction, but the work that you put into it was a labor of love. But then we realized, like, okay, there's so much that goes into how a corporation generates this money. So when you went out to create your own business, did you ever experience like that thought of, okay, how can I, like you mentioned, like I didn't know that there was so much that went into it. Did you ever go into it like, how can I create this as an individual when this company, this big mammoth of a corporation was able to do it?
Nah, the way I look at it is more like if this big corporation understands how to do this, where were they when they started? I don't care about where they are now. That's irrelevant. Where they are now, that's comparing apples and oranges. I'm comparing 30 years of excelled experience to the first month of mine. That's not comparable. So if I want to compare where was their first month and where was my first month, and when did they realize that they needed more people, and when do I realize I need more people? What kind of people did they add? What kind of people am I adding? What are the steps they're taking for success? What are the steps I'm taking for success? If you're already in corporate America, it's really hard to do that because you're already looking at the elephant. You're looking at that 30 years of experience.
Right.
So you're so focused on that. You're not going, let me step out of this and realize how they got here. Ignore what they're paying me. Ignore all of that. How did they get here? And so that perspective, I think is what was driving me. So when I went in and I created Moolah, I teamed up with a guy that was one of the people that was owning a phone company that was afraid Obama was going to cut the program. And I looked at it and said, how'd you build your business? What worked? What didn't work? And the difference this time was I didn't rush. The first time with Tip, I wanted to rush. They give you $500,000, you need to make that back quickly. I didn't really understand the power of having money and not having to rush. Being able to say, you know what, I can take my time. But what that meant was don't raise as much money or don't run so quickly, right? Let's start making sure your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I'm saying it takes that time. Normally the CEOs that you see at these big companies, they didn't just get there. They started one place and then went somewhere else and went somewhere else, and then they've been in those kind of roles for 10 plus years. So all the things I'm saying, they already know. So in corporate America, the difference that I've seen with a lot of my friends that are in corporate America that want to switch, they want to know the same thing the CEO knows because they were a lead developer. And now all of a sudden they know what a CEO knows.
It's crazy how that works, though.
Right.
People come out, I'm a boss, and he's like,
oh, you a boss. Listen, don't get me wrong. I love the energy.
Yes, yes.
That energy is the right energy to have, but it's more like saying, okay, I'm a boss when I know how to do this, and then I'm a real boss when I've done it.
Yeah.
And then they gonna believe I'm a boss when I've done it more than once. And then the market is gonna believe I'm a boss when I can do it when I want to do it.
That's a very rare realization. Like you said, that energy is what happens, right? And through that, a naive energy, right? You learn and then you become a boss, right? Because you've taken so many L's along the way. But it sounds like when you made your exit, which I think is a blessing that you didn't stay in corporate that long.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? Because have you ever read The Alchemist?
Yes.
You know it in essence?
Yes, I know it in essence.
In essence, if you don't follow your vision, if you don't follow your purpose, and then that whisper starts to turn down. And so while you took action, and I want to know what that action was, like when did you decide to leave? While you took action, you were able to follow that passion, keep the fire burning, when a lot of great people, and I can't say like you, because none of us are like, you're unique, but you are definitely unique. But there's someone in corporate right now who just let that whisper or that voice turn into a whisper, turn into like almost mute.
You know what? It's a very thin line between. A lot of people view my way of looking at things as ego, but it's really not, right? They're like, he's so bullheaded, he's so one-track mind, he won't get deterred, he won't. But at the same time, it's hard to shake him, it's hard to move him, it's hard to, even when you're partnering with him, it's hard to get him off of a line. That's intentional. That's very intentional. Because when you're doing something like this, you have to have the mindset to say, I'm 22. If it takes till I'm 35, it takes till I'm 35. I ain't moving. If I don't have enough cash, look like we're gonna be out the garage for a little while and almost find a side hustle, but I'm not quitting.
Yeah.
And I'm not moving. And that, most of my friends, most of my partners, they don't have that. They're afraid of being broke. And I'm like, whew, that's a real struggle. If you're afraid of being broke, but you're gonna tell him you're gonna make him rich. Those don't
Mindsets,
those don't go together. Those don't go together. You gotta know how to, you know what? I know how to be broke. I'm okay being broke, but I also know how to go get it. So because I know how to go get it, it doesn't matter what L I take, I'm gonna get back up because I'm comfortable. I don't need you to help me find my comfort. I don't need your salary to help find that. The only people that I've seen really with that, like consistently, is the people in the street. I know this is backwards, right? And you're like, why would you work with the people in the street? Because in corporate America, you're already in a place where you're accepting help, and a different kind of help that means that some of us are willing to get it on our own. Don't get it wrong, because there's a lot of us that are right on that edge, like, I gotta go. But majority, I'm just trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to be comfortable. I'm trying to have my comfortable salary, and then I'll dibble and dabble outside of that. There is nothing wrong with that.
It's a choice, right?
But this journey is not for them. I'm just real. This journey isn't for them. That's not what it is. You have to be willing and able to just stay with it. And that to me, I think, is, if there was one thing that I think that I've done that's been the most unique but also challenging, is having the mindset to where you can't deter me. And even if I'm up, down, left, right, you're not going to take me off my goal.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's talk about your decision to leave corporate. It was super early. I know it was off of an internship, but and I'll share this with you. When I left corporate, one of I would consider her mentor, she said, you're so short-sighted. You can leverage this department, that department, and maybe like 4 or 5 years, you'd be able to get to where you wanted to go. For me, I'm like, nah. Like whatever the system can offer me, I know I can get it on my own. I don't know how. I just know I can. But to be told that, I cannot lie and say that it didn't affect me for like months. I'm like, dang, am I short-sighted?
I was told the same thing. And I would be lying to say that they weren't being truthful. There's multiple ways to skin a cat.
Got it.
Right? If you can go in and say, hey, you know what? Let me go into this company. Go talk to the CEO, convince the CEO to tell me everything he knows, get this department head to tell me everything he knows, this department head to tell me everything he knows, then what I can do is I can get there 20 times faster than him, who's having to go learn it on their own.
That's real.
But you better understand that you better go all the way to the top. And if you're not doing that, then you're kind of being gamed a little bit, right? Because you can say, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, then you can do that. My first question is, okay, did you do it? Do you know how? Or are you giving me what you think?
That's real.
Because if you're giving me what you think, then you're probably just as bad as the street, because the street's telling me what they think. So now I gotta choose which one of y'all. I seen them go and get $1 million on their own. You still take that $200,000 check, and you at the top, and you in a good spot. So you telling me to stay in. I don't know if because you taking that, like, do you really know how, or are you just trying to keep me in?
Or are you spitting game to me, the game that they've taught you? That's how I took it, which, you know, that's how I
And I'm not here to say it's either one, right? Because I know there is multiple ways to skin a cat.
But what you said was, you know, talking to the executive in this department, the executive in that department, the CEO. And if you're not doing that, then you're not making, you might think you're making headway, but you're not making headway unless you are somehow building social capital of your own that you can take. I think they, like you said, multiple ways to skin a cat. But let's not forget that the streets sound like they are a mentor on the side. So how did the streets help you with this transition?
The streets are like, listen, that's one I learn a lot. I learned a lot from them, right?
It's actually strange. I don't want you to tell the story, but it's strange because, like, you come from Virginia, you're this geeky kid, got into these programs, you knew your mind was amazing, right? You come to Atlanta, cool, right? Influenced by one of the greatest rappers in America, in the world, right? And you are exposed. Were you exposed to the street dudes by T.I.?
Oh, I remember. I come from that. I'm from Norfolk, right? So I'm from Norfolk, Virginia.
Come on.
And so like that's my family as well. So like for me, it's understanding, right? Okay. Oh wait, all the guys in my family except my dad in jail, right? Oh wait, it's all like I understand it, but I also understand their intent and their purpose. Like these weren't people that had malicious intent that were trying to do bad things. These were people that were trying to get money and didn't understand. So my dad talking to my dad's like, listen, I know what you're doing, but it's risky. Because if you start trying to get money and you do the wrong thing, they're in jail. Look at your cousins. Look at your family. Like, you're here. So when I went into the street, I wanted to really learn how to make better decisions, but also understand why they were making the decisions they're making. Because I wasn't completely sheltered, but I was a lot more sheltered in Virginia than when I was, and I'm here in the middle of the trap, and I'm coding in a trap house, right? Right, and I'm coding, or you know what I mean, and or I'm around people that are like, hey, you know what I mean, we gonna do this, we gonna do that, we gonna do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's up, right? and your first time you like, all right, but then over time you're like, okay, I'm comfortable here, because the thing that I like about the street is I really respect their integrity. On certain levels, once you get to a certain level, it's the exact same way that the corporate CEOs work. The exact same way that the people in the street on the highest levels do business is the exact same way that I'm now doing business with the top phone companies. Negotiating the exact same way, using the exact same leverage, using the exact same power, using the exact same tactics.
Wow.
And then when I went into David Perdue, here's what's crazy part. I'm sitting in there and I'm looking at the Republicans and I'm looking at their tactics, and then I go into the middle of the street and I look at their tactics and I'm like, why do these look the same? Why is all of this the same? And then I'm starting to realize it's just power, politics. It's just money, power, right? Understanding how you move those things, how you do deals. It's all the same.
Dang, that makes so much sense. And for you to, you know, get the education, the life education that you got, you know, honestly and truly, that's the armor that you needed with the mindset that you have. I'm almost thinking about like when T.I. first said it, you being their worst like nightmare,
Yeah,
right?
He's like, yo, you're the worst nightmare.
But without that exposure to the streets, I think that a lot of brilliant minds are susceptible to like, you know, these power dynamics that you're mentioning.
Exactly, and you have to be able to have both. Like for me, it's like, right now I'm really comfortable going to the street, going and setting up tents and going on we're gonna take every neighborhood, every block, and we're comfortable doing that. And as we're giving out tablets and giving phones, we're comfortable doing that, because we understand, hey, start with this, then you're gonna get this, then you're gonna get this, I just watched them do it, and I watched them build up millions. But then I'm over here and I'm watching a small business do it, and I'm watching the politics start gaining vote. It's all the same. It's all the exact same.
You've unlocked the key to the game. I think in theory I know some of these things, right? But you don't know it unless you know it, right?
So you do it.
So talking to you, I really appreciate this. And you know what? I actually have a question about you. There's two things. One, you got a whole head of hair. Dealing in politics and power and money, stressful. The word stressful just rings a bell. So this is a work and play podcast, but I also recognize being able to work with some of like the coolest people, right? And being able to be in politics, being able to create your own company, seeing that thing grow. I enjoy listening to those things. For you, where do you get enjoyment? Where do you get the work? Where do you see the fine line between those two?
When I was younger, I was taught to live a purpose-driven life, right? So right now, I love what I do. Like when I say I love it, I mean I love it, right? Like Moolah, I literally invented, and talking about what that is, right? I invented a phone system that pays people money to use their phone and gives them the tools they need to excel in life. And then did a deal with AT&T and Culture Wireless to be one of the few wholesalers and the only black internet service provider. Combine the two together, and now I'm walking around giving out free tablets to everyone that needs it for them to make money for free, and giving you the most economical and the most affordable home internet from one of the biggest giants in the country. That is fun. I'm sorry, that is entertaining, right? But I don't want to pretend like it's not stressful as well, right? And so I still have my time. I love music. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit. Hey, shh, don't tell nobody. Keep this, you know. Hey, I know I'm talking, so hey, look, don't snitch. But yeah, so sitting next to Tip, I created at Georgia Tech, I created the Music Production Enclave. So most of the people at Georgia Tech, I produce a ton of music. I make a lot of music. Tip doesn't know that. You don't know that still, bro. You don't know that still. And so I sat next to the greats for about 5 years, right? Everybody you can imagine as the nerd, and just sat next to them. And I sat next to the engineer. If y'all haven't noticed, that's my tactic. I go in, sit next to them, learn how to be the great, and then go home, replicate it, and then come back and be like, okay, I can do it now. So that's what I did. And so for me, a lot of time I'm in the studio a lot. So I've been working on a pretty cool project that's gonna come out once Moolah and Culture Wireless hits the mark that we set, which is coming soon. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. I'm a golfer. I love golfing, right? I love my family. I'm a big family guy, right? Just had a baby.
Yes.
So, love spending time at home with the baby, right? Teaching me a lot. But yeah, that's it, right? Like, that's just enjoying life, enjoying the other things that come with it. But for me, all of it's the same. When I'm in the studio making music, when I'm giving out tablets, when I'm working on Moolah, everything that I'm doing, it's a passion.
How do you see the word, focus, or how would you define focus? Do you see your music career? I'm speaking it into existence.
Whoa, I was like, whoa, that was a big word.
I'm speaking it into existence.
Okay.
I'm speaking it into existence. But do you see any of the lanes that you're in outside of Moolah? Do you see those as being fuel or distractions that you have to manage to stay focused? How do you see focus?
What I learned is discipline. So for me, like when you're wrestling, when you're doing sports, every day I got 2 days. When I wake up, I gotta work out. When I gotta go to practice, and then I gotta perform. If he practices 2-3 times more a week than I do, he gonna beat me. That's hard to forget. That's just hard. So my day is Moolah, Culture Wireless. This is what we're doing. This amount of things have to get done. This amount of things have to get done. This is how my time is broken apart. And then when I have time for the extras, I do that. But a lot of times I force it all into a schedule to make sure that I have the ability to do it all. Being worn out, going way too far is realistic. I do not want y'all to pretend, and I don't want to be the person to be like, hey, I'm this, savant that never broke down. Oh, I done broke down multiple times. I done had to go and stay with this, but listen, I can't do it. Mama, I just need a few months, right? Oh, I ain't gonna go home, but she can be like, nah. But the point is all of us hit those marks, and I think the wisdom is in learning discipline. To say, this is my purpose, this is my mission, this is my ministry, right? I'm religious as well, right? And I understand kind of, how to get help and how to have faith. And when you have a ministry, nothing better throw off your ministry.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It can only be delayed, but not destroyed.
There you go.
I love it. I'm thinking about the decision that you left, right? You made a decision to leave corporate.
How old was I? I think I was my junior year in college.
Wow. Okay. So that's pretty early.
Not only did I say I was leaving corporate, I told them I was leaving college too.
That's what I was gonna say. So tell us about how did this.
I'm like, nah. There's no purpose for college if I don't want corporate America. The only purpose for this degree is to tell them what I know. That's it. So, I would rather my works tell you what I know rather than their piece of paper. Because what I've seen is that piece of paper don't tell you the whole story. But right now, we focus so much on that piece of paper, and then that piece of paper gives us validation. We get into this club, and it gives us validation. My validation comes from my works.
Was this a battle with your family?
Oh, it still is. Well, now it stopped being a battle after 10 years.
He's obviously not going.
After about 10 years, after success. After success. They're like, you turned down Google. What are you doing? I'm like, listen, I get it. But for me, I'm like, I understand who Google is. But Google's purpose isn't mine. So if Google is aligned with where I'm going, great. But y'all better be aligned exact.
Come
And
on.
if you're not aligned exact, and if my alignment, and if where I go and I learn something new and it changed, you better change with me. Because I'm gonna come and have a conversation with you and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do now. Does this fit? If this don't fit, you wasting my time.
That's real.
So I'm like, well, if these CEOs are all 50 plus, and it took them 10, 15 years to get there, that means they started at 35. And so what I'm learning now, they learned at 35. So if I can learn it at 22, by the time I'm 35, I can be them.
Damn. You know what's crazy? I tell myself that all the time, because I'm just like, pace yourself, right, Jack Rabbit. But
You're like, I gotta run.
Listen, you know, you want it immediately. So you said to this day, right? And till success, they were like, okay, we need you to go back. What? I'm sure the bullheadedness came in handy, because you just like, I'm just not listening to that.
Oh, completely.
Did you at all waver?
No. Nah. And the more they said it,
made you want to do it more.
I'm a rebel. If they would have been like, you should just go and be an entrepreneur and just do everything, I'd have been like, let me consider that, but let me consider some other options. Yeah. But they're like, no, you need to do this because we're telling you this and we know what's best. And I'm like, that whenever somebody starts telling me that they know what's best, I look at your works. Judge a man always by what they have done, not what they are saying. So if you're telling me I need to do this, then what I'm trying to do, have you done it?
Yeah.
And do you know how? And how do I know you know how? Because the same way I walk in, and when I go and raise money, they're not going to say, oh, Vernell, hey, you want to do this? Great, we're going to give you money. They're going to go, no. How do I know you know how? How do I know you can? And can you prove it? So if that's the bar that I'm being held to, you think you're not about to be held to the same bar? And for me, it was kind of hard because I held my family to that, right? And it was a bit challenging because I'm like, if you haven't done it before, don't tell me the path. Help me along the path, right? This path, I'm gonna run into a lot of things I don't know. My ego is not so high and I don't know everything enough to know that I'm gonna have all the answers. But if you don't either, say that. One of the most important things I learned was, this is what I don't know. I can work with you if you look, I'm really good at this. I know this really good. Look at what I did. I'm gonna be with you. When you start talking about this over here that you read in that book and you ain't really sure, just tell me the book. Just give me the book. Give me the book.
Or give me the cliff notes and see if I can use the information.
Just give it to me. Don't come to me and give me your inferences and your ifs and maybes.
That's right.
And so it took me a little while to understand how to really stay true to that. I don't care who you are, mom, dad, cousin, whether you're the dean of engineering, whether it was Georgia Tech too. Like a lot of they're like, hey, Vernell, there's another path. Well, have you done it? Okay, introduce me to someone that has.
That's real. Because what happens is well-intentioned mentors tell you about the path. They send you off on the path, and when stuff don't work, who's gonna be there to help you navigate?
I just want somebody that's did it. Because if you've done it, I know for certain that you're gonna be there, and most of the time I don't even run into the problem. But for me, it's just listening to people that hadn't, right? And understanding just when to receive more and when to block it out. And when to just say, you know what, that's useful, and I'm just gonna sit it over there because it's not relevant yet. And so I think that's what I'm doing a lot more of, the latter, right? Because I think a lot of the things that I learned, I'm like, you don't have the experience to tell me no. However, you've said so many things that are going to be useful later, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to sit it right there. You're going to be a little offended because I'm not going to go the way you're going. You'll be okay. But thank you for the information. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine that information with that mentor, this mentor, and then I'm going to bring them together for my purpose. And I'm going to walk in peace because I know that I've done that.
I love it. Now that you're on the heels, the head, you're at the beginning of fatherhood, right? All the stuff that you got to say and that you said as a child, right? I feel like what I hear, because I don't have kids, but children are karma, right? So now that you're going into fatherhood,
I can't wait for him to come and be like, I ain't listening to nothing you saying, bro. I can't wait for him to come to me and just be like, hey, show me. I ain't did that before, show me. But I think for me, hopefully, I think my dad did a good job of this too, because I think when I started doing that, he could have responded in an aggressive manner. And don't get me wrong, we still was aggressive manner, but it was more like, you know what, I'm gonna fall back a little bit, and as you need help, I'm gonna sprinkle this here, sprinkle this here, sprinkle this here, because you do have to find your own path. And I think if I can do that even more so, it took my dad, 5-10 years to do it. If I can do it before it even starts, right? I'm like, progress.
I love it. Okay, well, can you share is it your son?
Yeah.
Can you share his name?
Aiden.
I look forward to seeing Aiden grow, and honestly and truly, if I am anywhere in the vicinity of that, I'm like, I just love people getting their karma in a good way, right? You have your mind on the reality of you being able to say, like, one day my child's gonna say, listen, you don't know this, Dad. Especially if it's like, I don't know, something that you're passionate in or something like that, right? Oh,
I can't wait for it. I love it, because now it's just, I know that I've trained him to be him, and not me. That's real. Because most of the times when you have, like, when you're working somewhere and you're a parent, you naturally want the best for somebody. So even if they're an employee, you want the best, so you're giving them your path, but your path doesn't always correspond with who they are. So being able to have those align is something different. Yeah. I got 2 more questions. Go for it. One of them is about power. Okay. So in my program, it's macro social work. Okay. And it's way different than the child welfare systems that we're like used to seeing social workers in. But theoretically, we teach about power. We teach about alliances. We talk about community partnerships and creating those relationships with nonprofits or corporations that have the control. What's one of the things that you see novice, or like as you're sitting back and you see other people try to approach TI or other people try to approach these corporations, what's something that is not in the textbook that you know about power? That I think one thing that I think has helped me a lot is simply understanding what they require. I think I said that before, but that is something we overlook. We look at our textbook and say, okay, this is what it takes to get this money. This is what AT&T is gonna need. That's impossible. It's just like a relationship. You find someone you're dating. This is what this person wants. This is what this man needs. I look like this. No, they have to tell you that. And that's one of the things that I think I've had to learn, and I think everybody else kind of is a little bit off beat with, right? They'll come in and they'll say, hey, listen, he really gonna want this, and he gonna want this, and he gonna want this, because I see it like this. Instead of going, you know what do you need? And the best relationships come from, what do you want, what do you need, and how can I help with that? And then if you can see how what you're doing helps them, that is a very different thing than you saying, what I have, I know helps them. And you might be right, right? Half the time you may be right. What you have may help them. But going in and being receptive enough to allow them to tell you what they need before you assume what you has helped them, that's been one of the biggest things. It's just relationship management. To me, it's easy. It is now. It's easy. It's just you're going in. Hey, what is it that you need? What is it you want? Sit here. Let's take some notes. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna come back. Whereas before in the beginning, I would have been like, well, I've got this. I'll come back to you. And then let's go home and analyze what they said. Let's receive it. Let's do some research. Just understand exactly why they're saying what they're saying. Because the same way I got to this spot, they got to that spot. So the same way I may can see some stuff out of them that may not be normal, they might can too. So let's respect their genius. And if we can respect their genius, then we can understand ours a lot more.
That's a bar. Respect their genius. I have to keep giving you context of why, because as social workers, and you want to work with a corporation because they have the dollars, you have the vulnerable populations, you know the vulnerable populations really well, right. But they got the $1 billion check, right? I feel like the industry can be so like, we hate capitalism to the point where you walk into someone's establishment and you don't respect their genius.
Right. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, just listen. Like, AT&T is AT&T
for a reason.
United Way, it don't matter. Non-profit, they're them for a reason. TI is TI for Vernell is Vernell for a reason. Don't walk in and ignore what they've done and what they've learned. Now, if they haven't done something in the same light, okay, cool. Now have the wisdom to understand it, but you don't know that until you listen.
Yeah. That's real. I love it. I think we are getting info from a lot of different perspectives in your mind. And I'm glad you can hang with the community engagement side of things. Like, I still haven't, we went through a story of you saying, like, it sounds like you maybe didn't know that social entrepreneurship was a thing, but internally, really intrinsically, you move with this social awareness, and you started these companies honestly with a purpose, with a social justice intent, and through understanding other people's motives and desires, you made it happen, right? So through you learning, through you living, you picked up a lot of these lessons, and I would say you're a social entrepreneur. I would say you're a great example of a social entrepreneur. And so we can talk about that a little bit more from book perspective to real perspective, right? So the last thing that I was thinking about is for corporate professionals who are still looking at the elephant, right? Like from right underneath, and they're still trying to figure out where's their perspective. First thing, I like what you said, is take a step back. Right? I like to talk about understanding how you're affecting the different departments. At least, I know you're doing this report every day. How does this report affect the next? Just understanding the next step of the work that you do. But then, as you are thinking about from so many angles how politics, they collude with corporations, and then the music industry, politics, like kind of all of it is intertwined. What's a good first step for corporate professionals who may be short-sighted, right? Depending on like who agrees with my decision or not. But what's the first step? A good first step for someone who's in corporate and they want to figure out how to be more of a bigger thinker, or they want to understand how to get to CEO status. Maybe it's their first 0 of 10 years, but what's a good first step in your opinion?
Recognize the genius of the people that are around you. That's it.
I love it.
Like it's literally just, if you're here and you're working in this department, you're in a company. So that company, it was enough to hire you. So they got some kind of genius because you work there. So recognize what they really do. Why are they doing it? What's their purpose? How are they getting there? What departments do they have? What people are there? How are they doing this? And then go home, put together your vision board, and map out a genius. And then look at yourself and say, now, what's something that I care about? How do I do it? And then start mapping it out, at least so you can see, this is what this looks like on a big scale. And then from that big scale, go one step further. Find a mentor that is already an entrepreneur and say, now, if I want this big scale, how do I do step one? I would tell you to figure out step one on your own, but it's different based on industry and based on what you're doing. But if you just understand your purpose, your mission, and the problem, you don't gotta have the solution. Just pay attention to their genius, their mission, their problem, and how they put together their solution. Then you come down and say, all right, here's how my whole big picture looked, and then go one step deeper and say, here's my mission, my purpose, my problem. And then from there, you can get all the help in the world. You can come to me and say, hey, listen, here's what I seen, here's this, all right, what do I do next? That's easy. That's easy. But it's real difficult when you bring part of it. And now you're asking a mentor to help you put together the other pieces that realistically you can get while you're sitting at your job.
Bingo. That's real. I really have enjoyed this. Speaking of which, you said people can come to you, right, as Vernell, right? They might have a good idea to come to you, right?
Come on.
So speaking of which, how can folks who are tapped in, they want to connect with you, they want to work with you, support you, how can folks support you in this time?
Yes. Well, one, y'all reach out to me, BlackTechie89 on Instagram, Culture Wireless on Instagram, culturewireless.com. Just, I'll do my best to make myself as available to the community as much as possible. Y'all probably will see me out there with the tent. I'm not there too much these days, but my goal is to be in the community as much as possible. I like to be the change that I'm trying to ask people to be. And so, reach out, ask how we can help. If I can, pass somebody your way or do anything that I can, I always will.
Let's go. I really hate this, but I didn't touch on culture. We didn't get into it. So before we go, come on, you got to
give you a little bit.
Yes.
All right. So the big picture, right? Here's the big picture. We've got this software that goes on every Android phone. Takes advertisement, splits it 3 ways. Customer gets some, phone companies get some, I get some, and then we went to AT&T. We've got tablets that are wholesale. We give them away to every single person on Section 8. Food stamps, Social Security, veterans, Indian reservations, anyone that's low income under the poverty line, pretty much everyone on any government assistance program there is. You can come and get a free tablet from us. You can also get AT&T services discounted in a way that you've never seen. We also have partners that are running fiber ourselves. So we're touching on the fiber, owning the network that you're on the devices you're on, and we actually own the software that are on top of the devices as well. So that's something Apple isn't doing. Microsoft, that's something we're a bit unique and proud of, and we're doing it pretty well. So we're also hiring. Let us know if you're looking for somewhere. And if y'all want to be bosses, the way we work, the way we try and hire the community, I hire people differently. Rather than putting you into this fixed corporate environment, I try and pay people with residual the same way I get paid.
Okay.
I try and teach the tools that I learned to everybody on my team, because the objective is to, if I teach you, you teach them, that's how we see more progress faster.
I love it. I got one. I'm sorry.
Come on, give me some.
Because here's the thing.
She's like, no, I got more.
Because you said it. You gave them the roadmap for somebody in corporate. You said, map out a genius. And then work on becoming, how do I become that genius? I thought that was dope. We talked a little bit about your aspirations and visions for Culture Wireless. And I would love for you to share a little bit of your vision, right? Like, what is it that you aspire to do on a larger scale?
5%. I want 5% of the wealth that is currently not touching these communities worldwide to now go into these communities. Hard stop. I'm going to take the money that already exists from somewhere else and the largest corporations. I'm going to make it beneficial to them first. Then from there, I'm going to take that relationship and I'm going to bring all of those resources to the communities that need it, and I'm going to give it to them in a way that they can receive.
Simple as that. They said if you can't break it down to a 10-year-old, then you don't know what you're talking about. So we just did it. If they're interested in supporting, working with you, being hired, do they DM you or do they go to the website?
Go to Culture. If you're looking for a job, go to Culture Wireless, because that's not going to come directly to me. I've got a team for that. So go to Culture Wireless. Just send us a message on the Culture Wireless website, on the Moolah Mobile website. But if you're looking for, music, just help, entrepreneurship, just life, helping me with babies, anybody that want to help,
He's going to need it.
Listen, I'm receiving all of it. And y'all have done that. Don't worry. You have done that. So I'm listening all ears. But yeah, just message me, Instagram, BlackTechie89, follow me. Go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vernell.
Thank you.
I've been so excited for this interview. Thank y'all. You literally robbed the bank. I'm happy to say that, because I literally think that you guys got so much value from this conversation. I hope you guys can do something with it and you go take action. But until next time, I will see you on the next episode of the Work and Play podcast. Y'all be great. Peace.